Okay, good evening. We are now here with Shelia Cherfilus McCormick. She is a candidate for U.S. House of Representative in the 20th Congressional District, and that district covers Broward and Palm Beach County. Good evening, Ms. McCormick. How are you?
I'm good. Good evening. Sorry, my phone is like moving. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here with you guys.
Well, thank you very much for stopping by the Adams Brothers podcast to talk with us and let the voters know why we should vote for you. And that's why we want to ask you some questions, and we'll put it out there for the voters to make a decision.
All right, sounds good. I'm ready.
Okay, so why don't you just go ahead and tell us about yourself. Tell us where you grew up, where you went to school, about your education, and what led you to want to run for Congress.
Okay. Well, I grew up in Miramar, Florida. Since I was a little girl, I probably moved here from New York when I was like maybe 10 or 11 years old. So this has been home for a long time. I've been leading a healthcare company that's located in Miramar and in West Palm Beach. But we actually send healthcare professionals into people's homes. We cover all of Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach. We've been able to employ over 500, 600 people consistently, and we've been in existence since for 27 years. I went to university for my undergraduate degree, University of Maryland for my business administration, St. Thomas University School of Law for my law degree. Once I graduated, I actually went into healthcare regulation at the time. That was around the time of the Affordable Health Care Act. And at that time, they just pretty much needed lawyers who knew about healthcare regulation to help reimbursement. Now, I was a single mom for 12 years. So it took me 10 years from the time I graduated undergrad to get to graduate law school, which is a long road, but anybody who's ever been a single parent knows it doesn't happen overnight for us. It's a constant pursuit, and sometimes you're going part-time and we're taking care of our babies. So I was single parent for 12 years. During that time, my last year of law school, that's when I found out my daughter had a learning disability, which was heartbreaking because I saw that, she was struggling. And we struggled. It was me and the teachers struggling, trying to figure out resources. I even had to take a year off of work to figure out how we can help her. More and more I talked to people in the community. I found out that our children were being diagnosed with healthcare, with disabilities consistently. All these different diagnoses. There was a disparity. Why is it our children continuously? Then I learned about, the probability of them dropping out if they don't get the proper help, developmental help. And I learned about the whole prison to school pipeline, that, once you get diagnosed with a learning disability, the probability of dropping out of school is what they think that's going to happen. They build prisons. So it upset me. I talked to a lot of Black parents like myself. A lot of us in this district are, single parents, and we're women. And it upset me. At that point, that's when it clicked for me. I turned from a voter into an advocate. And I started lobbying in D.C. I already was going to D.C. talking about health disparities because I saw it firsthand. And I knew that they needed to understand what was going on. Because even though we had Obamacare, it still wasn't proportionate. And in Florida, they never expanded it. So we still weren't getting what we needed. We couldn't afford it. And then I just one day took a leap and I said, well, what about our kids? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the help that we need. And it fell on deaf ears. Then I said, well, what about economic development? It fell on deaf ears. And the last straw was in 2018 when I went in to meet with our congressman and he wasn't available. There was a gentleman there, his name, and he said, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know anything about healthcare. I'm like, what? We have a bill here that's supposed to pay, more money out to healthcare professionals in our community, and you know nothing. He's like, no, but I'm gonna look at it and I'll try and give it over. So I felt like that wasn't good enough. And I flew back to Florida and drove to Tallahassee, and I filed in 2018. We ran a race for 3 months, and I've never ran a campaign before. I had the legislative experience by writing policy and lobby, but I know nothing about politics, but I did know a lot about business. So business, I knew how to market. I knew how to use the same chain we used for my business. And we were able to get close to 30% of the votes in 3 months. And that was in 2018. And we only had $30,000 going against an incumbent with 800. But we did that. Yeah, we did our best and we kept on moving. So we just kept on leveraging ourselves, and we just saw everything played out in our favor. And right now we're here on the forefront. We're getting a lot of community support. The last poll we were looking at, we were ahead. Just shows the movement and the necessity people, the community, see that it's time.
Okay. All right. That's very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go right on into our first question. Yeah, you definitely have a tough uphill battle to unseat Alcee Hastings. He's been in Congress for a while. He's a seasoned vet, and it's not impossible, but yeah.
It's as hard as you think. It really isn't. The
Yeah.
first time it's going to be impossible. Nobody's ever got those numbers against him,
Right.
and that was no one's ever come that close. And right now, with the community, everybody's aware that seniority in Congress anymore doesn't have the effectiveness. Like, we can't assume effectiveness. And so a lot of people are becoming more aware because the freshman members who are in Congress have actually been able to bring a lot more issues to the forefront and have even had senior members signing on to their bills. For example, Medicaid for All, or even the Green New Deal. You know, Congressman Hastings has actually signed on to the Green New Deal, but when you look at the freshman class that are pushing these bills forward, they have not signed on to Congressman Hastings' bills. Most of his bills have no co-sponsors. So for you to be a senior and you can't get junior and freshmen to sign on to your bills, that explains why our district hasn't passed a bill in 10 years. That explains it. So seniority does not translate to effectiveness, and we feel it every day. I mean, do you feel economically and with your health in the community that we're advanced in the last 27 years, that we're getting better? Do you see that in your life, that this we're moving forward? You have to ask yourself, and I think a lot of people have. And what I'm getting back is time for change. The congressman is not present. I hear he's sick. It's all true. Debbie Washington Schultz right now, she's his proxy, but he's not even voting in Congress right now.
Right. Well, we certainly wish him well health-wise. Definitely. He's been around and we've heard some of the same things, but we certainly wish Congressman Alcee Hastings the best moving forward. So let me go right on into my first questions. What are your thoughts on President Trump not releasing his taxes like the previous presidents, and should Congress compel him to do so?
Definitely. You know, my thoughts on President Trump is that he's a con job, you know, like he's just trying to fool people and pretend and fake it till he makes it. And the way he's been handling coronavirus, we see what's going on, right? And of course he should be compelled. But no matter what Congress has been trying to do, he's found some way to evade it. But the one thing he cannot evade is this election. As much as he may try, this election's coming. We're going to have this election. And I sincerely believe that he'll be taken out. We have been knocking doors now, even through Corona. And we've been knocking doors. And the number one question I get, are you a Democrat? Number one, all over. Number two is, do you live here? And I'm like, yes. And I try to explain to them the primary is more important, but the Democrats, our community, they are ready for November.
Well, that's a question I don't have to ask you because you've already answered that question that you're a Democrat. So, but are you a lifelong Democrat, and have you ever been a Republican before?
As long as I've been Black, I've been a Democrat.
Okay, so we got that out of the way. All right. Well, thank you for answering that question. That was my first question, Wayne.
Okay, Mr. McCormick, do you think the current Black leadership in Congress is effective?
That's a good question. What is that? You asked me that question, Wayne. Okay. Honestly, we have the Black Congressional Caucus has been protecting a lot of their members who they feel are not as effective. So no, they're not as effective as they need to be. They have been suppressing a lot of younger leaders that can come in and do the job. Their rationale for the suppression of younger leaders has been for seniority, right? They want to keep seniority, keep them in because hopefully you're going to get a committee chair. But what we have seen with the elected officials who are there, seniority isn't translating to all of them. And so do I feel like the Congressional Black Caucus itself is looking towards new leadership? Yes. Do I feel like the Democratic Party is? I can tell you 110% yes. I've even spoken to Nancy Pelosi's aide, and they said they are looking for fresh new Democrats who can come in and make sure they can leverage the party and stop the divisiveness. So we could be more effective, but it's going to take both people to say, we're not going to keep the old guard and just allow people to sit there. And I'll give you a good example of it. Think about the Black Lives Matter protest. Did we have a Black leader there? Did our district have a Black leader leading these protests, explaining to the younger generations where we were, and where we are now. No, I was there. I didn't see anybody who was there from Congress. I didn't see anybody. It was just us there. We had a few state House representatives. At one that I was at, Chevron Jones was there, but everybody else was younger leaders who were trying to move forward. That's not leadership, and we have to realize that. If you're a leader, you must be there, and we got to bridge these generational gaps by being present and explaining the past and joining with the future.
Okay, because I know there's a new movement out right now. You know, sometimes you hear about it called the Black Agenda. And I hear a lot of people express that a lot of the leadership in Congress has been in office too long and they are ineffective. And that was I have another question. Do you believe in term limits for people in Congress?
Yes, we have term limits. At this point, it has translated to a lifetime appointment. That's where they're moving. They think they're part of the Supreme Court. No, you're not. You know, you cannot. It's not okay for you to die there. And we as a community have to put an end to it. As long as we stay silent, then they believe it's okay. So like I said, even in our district, we don't have anybody leading our district. Debbie Wasserman Schultz is the one who is the proxy. We were just at Souls in the Polls, to the polls, and she was there talking to the community as if she was elected by us. You were not elected by us. You know, what have you done for our community that now you come in as like, you know, the proxy congresswoman? No. I mean, as Black people, we have to take control over our district. If we sit there and be complacent and we allow Debbie to be our proxy, we're allowing someone else to just pass over our authority, our power, our effectiveness. And you know other people are watching us, right? They're watching to see if we just lie down and let it happen. And if we do, after this election, let's see who they put in that space. It won't be somebody who looks like us because we laid down and let it happen.
And if elected in Congress, I know as a congresswoman, you would have to fight for all your constituents, but do you have any plans specifically for Black people?
Yes. I say it so fast like I was hitting a button. Yes, definitely. For the last 10 years of my life, I've been fighting to end healthcare disparities, economic disparities. And at the end of the day, I truly believe that our generation we've been called to finish the work that our parents have started for us, which is finally having economic inclusion. We can't allow and turn a blind eye, pretend like it's happening. It's not. We know that there are federal contracts, and we know that we as a community have not been privy to proportionate amount of those contracts. We don't need another study. We know we're not getting those contracts. I've been running a business now for more than 10 years, and I can tell you, sometimes they don't give me those contracts, they say I haven't earned them, but then they call me to be a subcontractor. Why is that? You know, if you look at our businesses in District 20, most of the businesses are minority businesses. Are the contracts being given out evenly and equitably? It's not. The second portion that I've been arguing and fighting for is health disparities. We know that historically, African Americans have been denied jobs that have health insurance. We know that we're constantly not included when they make these agendas or these healthcare forums. We're not counted, even when it comes to breast cancer, when it comes to comorbidities, high blood pressure, diabetes. There are preventative measures and programs everywhere, but they're not in our community. And we even see when it comes to addiction. When crack was out, you know, we were robbing people. But when meth came out and when they had all these other opioid crises, you know, those are good people who have a problem. This is racial disparity. We have to end that so we can actually get our place in history where we need to be, which is equal. We cannot allow it just to be something we say, oh, we believe in equality. This is a time for us to prove it. And we have all generations on board. So we got to get it done.
Okay. Do you believe in reparations for foundational Black Americans? American descendants of slavery?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. And the reason why is because we must recompense the people who have built this country. If you look at another part of the disparities financially, is that because we weren't paid, because we were treated so poorly, at the end of the day, we don't inherit. That is a huge, huge thing. A lot of people who I know who own their businesses, they inherited the money that allows them to survive the vicissitudes of having a business. Example, coronavirus. You know, other people who inherited money, they came in with at least 500,000 in the bank. So if they have a dip in profit, they have that money to carry them on. Not only that, if they want to go and borrow more money just to make sure they have 2 million in the bank, they can. But banks still are discriminatory and they don't have fair processes when it comes to minorities. And we don't have any access to having those kinds of funds. So I believe in represent 100% for those who are African American and who have been born and raised here, specifically in our district. It's time. It's time. And I also believe, talk about the economic agenda, I think that we can no longer allow for us to just have federal tax benefits for people who buy property in Black communities. Because what we see now, it has led to regentrification and our Black businesses are being decimated. Some of those, we need to start transitioning. We saw what it did, now it's changing. So what I'm proposing is that we now have these opportunity zones be expanded into Black businesses and entrepreneurs. So you can be incentivized, we'll give you a tax deductible if you invest in Black businesses. So now we'll have some money left over. So when there's a dip, we're not losing everything. At least we have people now who are investing in us and we have more control. And that's the next phase of us really getting, that's the first phase actually of us being included economically, having economic inclusion and development.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McCormick. Darryl?
Ms. McCormick, I heard you mention healthcare earlier, and there are a lot of countries that provide free healthcare to their citizens. United Kingdom, Canada, France, and Germany, just to name a few. And here in America, healthcare keeps going up. They want you to pay more, they cover less, they don't cover pre-existing conditions, and they all of these things, you know, that's frustrating Americans, particularly me, you know, because I've had some serious health problems in the past. Thank God I'm past those. But my question to you is, do you think the U.S. government should provide free health care for all tax-paying Americans, working Americans?
Yes, I believe in Medicare for all, 110%. But I got to be honest with you. I've been working in Medicaid specifically, Medicaid, Medicare for more than 15 years, and it's not perfect. I do believe that we need phases, and the first phase that we have to start with, since we're in the middle of a healthcare pandemic, is making sure that we open up a telehealth portal, which, and a lot of people don't understand what that means, but basically Medicaid will cover everyone living in the hotspot initially, which is our district. We've been in the hotspot twice. So Medicaid will cover everybody in there. And so if we want to call and have a first visit with our primary physician, you can have that, you know, online through your, or whatever it is, and they can actually order you have a blood panel test. And what that blood panel test could be will tell you if you have diabetes, if you have high blood pressure, if you have high cholesterol. The reason why we have to start identifying these issues and treating them is because when you add these things, these components, with COVID, it equals death. And that's us. That's who we are. We're the ones dying because historically we haven't had health insurance because we were denied positions that gave us that. And that's the first step. We have to open up that portal and then start phasing in the whole country.
Okay. And I have another question. What are your thoughts on Washington, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser painting Black Lives Matter on the street leading up to the White House? What are your thoughts on that?
I thought it was brilliant. It brought a smile to my heart. I thought it was brilliant, and it shows you what happens when you have a strong leader who's not afraid. For her to do that, you know, everybody needs to understand where that is. Where she painted it on 16th Street and K Street. K Street, that's where you have all the high profile lobbyists, you know? That's where everybody who has money, big pharma, banks, that's where all their offices are. On 16th, that little corridor, they have hotels that historically have been not for us. You know, that is the luxurious part. And for her to paint that there, that was just, it was great. It shows you with the right bold leadership to do that, it'll change the whole world. It changed the whole narrative.
Well, of course, I'm sure it didn't. The president didn't like it, and I'm sure he was on Twitter. And speaking of Twitter, should President Trump tweet more or less, or just stay off Twitter?
I think seek a mental health expert. That would be my recommendation, and or maybe step down first and then see a mental health expert. Yeah, no, he should not be tweeting.
Well, if everybody go to the polls and vote, he won't be in there much longer. So we have an election coming up on November the 3rd. So if everybody goes out and vote and take out their frustrations at the polls, and you won't see him around much longer.
I'm excited to see who his VP picked. We keep talking about who we think it's going to be. I can't wait.
Yeah. We'll soon find out, Wayne.
Yes, Mr. McCormick. I'm a gun owner. I've been a long time gun owner. I go and shoot all the time. How do you think the Second Amendment should be repealed?
No, the Second Amendment shouldn't be repealed, but what is necessary is that we need to have certain military-style weapons. I don't think they should be so easily accessible. When it comes to background checks, we need to have them stricter. In some instances, it's easier to get a gun than it is to even file your taxes. You know, like there's certain things that it shouldn't be happening. And on top of that, anybody who's even in a mental health crisis, who might be cycling or going through an issue, they can get a gun with no issue. And so when we start looking at it, this is really the gun problem that we have in the United States. Accessibility, we don't have enough background checks. And the third thing is we don't have healthcare to help people with mental health issues. I mean, everything keeps going back to these disparities. But I hate to say it, but this is where we are. We keep trying to fix the outside problems without fixing the inside problems. And for a lot of us, it's systemic. And so this is the time for us not to be shy and to be bold about it and say enough is enough.
Okay. And do you think the U.S. should torture suspected terrorists for information?
Wayne, you got some hard questions. No, I don't think we should be torturing anybody, especially right now when we have so much cyber security and there's so much cyber intel. I don't believe we need to be torturing people. The amount of time it takes to torture somebody, you could have found out so much more information with our technology.
Okay, and do you believe that the U.S. invasion of Iraq in 2002, I believe that was, do you think that was justified?
No. With all the information that came out, I don't believe. I think there was an agenda and people pushed forward with it, and it was not justified.
Okay. Daryl?
Ms. McCormick, do you think that the evidence suggests that the Trump campaign collaborated with the Russians?
Yes, 100%. Even now, when we see his relationship, we've never had a president who had such a relationship with a rogue country that we weren't friends with. We see it all over. There's been so many different documentaries on it, 2020, 60 Minutes. Yes, it's very clear that he had that relationship. Very, very clear. And I think that's one of the reasons he's holding back his taxes. So we can't see how entangled he is and how long he's been entangled.
And what are your thoughts on North Korea trying to build a nuclear bomb? Would you support a preemptive strike against North Korea to stop them from obtaining a nuclear bomb?
That should be the last case. I'm sorry, I have a plane flying. But any kind of strike should be a last resort. Last resort should be any kind of strike. Because what it's just going to do is amplify the situation, especially with that kind of leader who looks for these kind of issues to make a mockery or just make a big deal over. It would have to be a last resort.
Okay. And I have another question. I'm going to change the script a little bit. We all know what happened with Colin Kaepernick.
Mm-hmm.
He's no longer in the NFL because he was peacefully protesting police violence against Black people and then the killings of unarmed Black men. So I'd like to ask you a question. Do you think that Colin Kaepernick was blacklisted from the NFL? And if so, do you think President Trump had any influence on their decision?
So I want to give a disclaimer. I am not into sports. However, my husband is, And he talks about this whole situation over and over again. From what I've seen also, I do definitely believe that he was targeted because he did take that knee, because it seems like there's no real justification. Even when they said that they were going to give him a second chance to perform, when I saw him even talk about it, I do believe that they were targeting him because he was taking a stand. President Trump intervened in that situation, I believe, because he wanted to take a strong position, letting his base know that he does not support, he supports them. And, you know, his base, which he runs a lot of rhetoric about white nationalists, to be honest with you. And so I think he intervened to kind of let his base know that he's still there with them. I believe that many of the owners may side with that base. And that's why they all got involved so quickly, because they did not want the players to actually start shaping the narrative in the country, which they do have the ability to do. So they stepped in very quickly to try and quiet it down, not realizing that, you know, even if the athletes wouldn't get up and raise a movement, the people would. And that's where we are today.
Right. And the very thing that he was protesting back then when he was in the NFL, we all saw what happened to George Floyd. And that is exactly what Colin Kaepernick was protesting. And they wanted him out of the NFL because he took a knee to protest things just like that. And he's still not in the NFL today because he, you know, stepped out and he took that knee, and he's paying for it right now today.
But that's what makes it so interesting, right? They knew how much influence they knew how much influence all the players had. So they immediately tried to suppress it, not realizing that this coronavirus was going to come. People were going to be forced to be home doing what? Watching TV all day on the internet. And that we would all be forced to witness. Like, we were held captive at this point when coronavirus was at that point, watching what we knew was going on for a long time. And so the force that we have, power as a people that we have, it has really come to the light. And this is our time to leverage that. And we have to ask ourselves, what are we leveraging for? What is the ask for our community? And as your congresswoman, my ask is healthcare, economic inclusion, economic development. That is the ask for our 20th district. And we're not giving up nothing. Don't come and ask us for your vote unless you address these issues for us. We're tired of just giving our votes and getting nothing back. No other community does it, and I'm not going to allow the 20th district to do it any longer.
Well said. Thank you for answering that, Wayne.
Okay, Ms. McCormick, I know you're running for Congress, but do you think the Senate version of the federal bill for police brutality, do you think that went far enough, or do you think that was just a sham?
It didn't go far enough. And the real things that needed to be put in it were left out. And I think they were doing that trying to get the bill pushed, right? Truth is, they know how to handle these situations. If we just step back and we look at how Congress has traditionally handled any institution that had a high case of reports of abuse or even fraud, and we know the police departments have been having high cases of abuse and brutalization and fraud because they're doctoring some of these kids, letting the truth be told. What the first step they do is have regular audits from an independent body. That should have been in there, where there's an independent body doing audits on every single police force, because we know that it exists. It's part of the culture in some places, and we need to identify which police departments actually still have those problems. Second thing also, even the police officers who are working within the force don't feel protected. My brother-in-laws are police officers, and they said that there's been times when they went to complain about what they thought was undue force, and they got threatened with retaliation, taking away your pension, we're gonna find a reason to fire you. And we have to understand that this is not just an issue that happens to outsiders, but people in there. And that's why we have to start auditing them. And if we find that you are an abuser and you have the wrong systems in place, then we're gonna take money away from you. And that's the only way people change, right? When it comes to their pocketbook, all of a sudden when you start taking money away and firing people, people figure out how to act. I can't change your mental state, but you know what? I can change your actions. And the first way is by taking your money away and firing. I think that definitely needs to be done. We go back again to healthcare. They need to expand healthcare. like I mentioned, my brother is a law enforcement, and they could tell you the trauma they see every day, and not everybody has access to the mental health they need to deal with the trauma. So when you have these officers, even if they had good intentions, now they're seeing trauma every single day, and you're putting them out in the street, what do you think you're going to get?
Yes, and I think my position is, and I want to ask you too, do you think the limited immunity and at least do you think the limited immunity should be stripped from police officers? And do you think that that we need a national database for bad police officers?
Yes, we do.
Would you support a national database?
Yeah, we do. We definitely do. And it's for all the reasons I mentioned. We have to attack this comprehensively. We don't have time to do piece by piece, because what's at stake is our lives, right? So when you have a big issue like that where it's life or death, it has to be cumulative. And once it's cumulative, we can start actually seeing what's going on quicker to figure out how we can perfect this. And right now, while we have the leverage, the momentum, let's do it. It's not going to be like, how people are. They'll get over it. Once a new thing comes, what I'm afraid of is if a vaccine shows up tomorrow, that people will forget what we're fighting for. So, it's of the essence, and we have to seek it and go forward.
Okay. Do you think transgender troops should be allowed to serve in the military?
Yes. Yes. And I think we have a big issue right now when it comes to transgender in our community. The last facts that I saw were transgender African Americans, the average life expectancy is somewhere like 35 because they're killed. Those are our children. Regardless of what they are, they're killing our children. No, we got to do something.
Okay, and do you think felons who serve their sentence, assuming the crime was nonviolent, be able to serve in Congress?
Yes. Yes, some of the best people with the best ideas are the people who are rehabilitated. If I said no to that, then I should say single mothers shouldn't either, right? But it was through the pain that I went through that makes me the best person to serve. I have the tenacity to fight. I know what I felt was unjust. I've seen that side, and I know what it is to kind of have to beg and borrow to try and put food on your table and put you through school. And that person has a story. Today I was at the polls, and one of the guys who was working there, he was talking to me, and he told me a story, and I said, "You're my hero." He said, "Why?" He told me that he was addicted for crack for 20 years, and he just came over it. And now he's here at the polls, and he was arrested, and he can't vote, but he's going to pass that literature and encourage people to vote. That's my hero. Like, what you've been through is nothing compared to what I've done. And you can't even participate, but you're going to get people out there. Yes. They have the biggest redemption story. They touch your soul. I mean, he gave me he gave me some more oomph to fight now, because I said, if you can do this, we can win this election. We got a few days, and we're just going to keep pushing.
And do you think the Electoral College should be did away with?
Yes. Yes, because we're getting people elected which aren't based on the numbers of the people. The people no longer are the group that they felt were uneducated, couldn't find information. When the founding fathers were writing this, they didn't realize we would have the internet. They didn't realize that you can call your candidates and research. This election, remember I ran in 2018. This election, I get the most calls from constituents asking me questions. So we have a more educated people when it comes to candidates. And I think that we're getting to the point where we no longer need the Electoral College.
Okay, and on which issue will you work with members of the other party?
Healthcare, economic development.
Would you work with members of the other party?
Well, we have to work with members of the other party for all issues, right? That's
Right.
the only way they'll pass. And from what I've seen in Congress, the biggest thing there's certain things that are very partisan, but I feel like that partisan talk really comes from the older members. The older members really try and have these talking points to make themselves, to give them like another run, give them, I had another call coming in. Hello? Sorry about that, I had another call. So the older members, I feel, try to be very partisan because that gives them the spotlight. But the younger members who we've spoken to, they partnered with another freshman Republican to come to the middle and have bills that benefit both. And the truth is, everybody in Congress is looking for a good idea. And once you have those good ideas, all of a sudden they say it was my idea. But fresh ideas need to come in, and that's where new leadership like myself comes in. Because we can start over, clean the house out, and let's start over negotiating it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. McCormick, I just have one last question for you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're elected to Congress, what would you do to improve diversity on Capitol Hill?
Oh, well, first we have to have term limits. And the second thing, we need more. Don't say it like, a lot of people think that this is beyond them. Exposure is huge. I don't know if I would be here running for Congress if the first time when I was invited to go lobby, if I said no, I wouldn't have been here because I would have thought it's something bigger than me. I wouldn't have known what it really takes, like how to make the sausage. The first time, one of the groups that I was a part of, they said, let's go lobby. And before we went to lobby, we took 3 days and we were working on a bill. They read it to me. Does it make sense? What would you add? And we did that for 3 days straight. And then they said, okay, we have meetings. And we went in there with the bills. And if I was never exposed, I wouldn't be here. So I do think that we have to start exposing our community, even at the age of high school. I think we got to take them into Congress. Let them see it is not bigger than you. If you want to know what bills work, the bills that work come from the minds of the people who are suffering it the most. And that is us. And so we have to expose them, bring them in. And, when they talk about caps for finances, it's real. If I wasn't in the position I'm in, I wouldn't have been able to have this campaign and run against, the incumbent. I can tell you that honestly. If, my husband had some time where he worked with the Congressional Black Caucus and he knew who to talk to as far as the people who give money. And we had a conversation and we're like, okay, if you're not going to give money to me because I'm new, I get it. That's the culture. But just don't give it to the incumbent. Just wait. Let us fight this out fair. Don't just throw all your money assuming he's going to win. Just hold back and let us fight this on our own terms. And going into this election, when we looked at our financial reports, the incumbent only came into the election with $60,000. Now he raised around $400,000, but he had to spend that all on the overhead. But coming in, he had $60,000 and I had $50,000 coming in.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
From before, he came in with $800,000 last time.
Wow.
Wow. And I got one last question too. What do you think, Ms. McCormick, of the recent of Donald Trump signing the executive order and not waiting on Congress, or actually the Senate, I believe it was the bill was in as far as the coronavirus bill and the stimulus package. How do you feel on him overstepping, the process and just signing the executive order instead of just waiting on the people we elected to get the job done?
Well, I think it's indicative of what's going on in Congress right now and in DC. Everybody's looking for the best idea and they want to get the shine, if you understand what I mean. The stimulus worked and he knows the election's coming. So he wants now for it to come out. If anything, the sound bite he was trying to put out in our neighborhood was a Trump check. He made sure his name was on that check. Everybody knows this is a Trump check. And so this time when he's so close, he wants to make sure and try to bring it out there that this is my check. But this is what I told you about. I've been working in DC for 10 years now. You have a good idea, you're going to see how quickly they jump on it to say, oh, no, it's my idea. That's why we need fresh ideas.
Okay, that's it for me.
Okay, Ms. McCormick, you answered some tough questions there, and we asked some tough questions here on the Adams Brothers podcast. So now we're going to give you the floor to tell the people of Broward County and the voters of Broward and Dade County. No, I'm sorry. Let me repeat that. Let me rephrase that. The people of Broward and Palm Beach County, which covers the 20th congressional district. Why should the people of Dade, I keep saying Dade, why should the people of Broward County and Palm Beach County elect you to Congress?
Well, the first thing that everybody should be clear about is that I show up. I've been showing up for the community since Corona. I've been showing up to every single event. Right now, I've been having debates. I have never been debated, or I've never had anyone, the incumbent, be present. And I understand that it's unfortunate, and I wish him the best of care. But right now, we can't risk it. We can't afford to abort our future because we want to hold on to the past. This is a time when we have to show up and fight. Another reason why I'm the best person for the job right now is because we're actually in a position where we can have our needs met, our urgent needs, when it comes to economic development, when it comes to healthcare, even when it comes to business issues. The time is now. I have the experience when it comes to healthcare. I have the business experience. I have developed jobs with our business. We've had a vocational schools where we have taught people LPN, CNA, and we've seen them grow from that. And I plan on having more programs for job skills training in agriculture, which a lot of people might not know, but one of the biggest businesses that's about to boom will be cannabis. And it's not in recreational cannabis, it will be in medical marijuana. And right now they're fighting in DC about when it's actually gonna be legal, how they're gonna cut it up. And all those big money markets are trying to get into it. We need somebody to fight and say that because you've been targeting Black and brown families, that we should be afforded a piece of that pie when it comes to new opportunities in agriculture. In addition to the economics, it also comes to engineering. We know an infrastructure bill will be passed. I'm sure you guys are aware about the sewage spill we had. It was one of the largest that the county has ever seen. And there are federal dollars that are gonna be coming in, and we are not ready to get those jobs. So we must start training our people in this district on how to do those engineering jobs through vocational schools so we can start lifting up our economy. If not, someone else will get those jobs and we'll be stuck here again. This is our opportunity. If we're gonna save ourselves through this healthcare pandemic, it's gonna be for us getting up right now and making the right vote. The entire country's been voting out incumbents. We saw last Tuesday, 7 incumbents were voted out by new people like myself. It's our time. It's our time to take our place in history. It's our time to actually rise to our destiny and ensure and end the fight for economic inequality, economic inclusion. This is our time, and I ask everybody to humbly vote for me. Voting already started, and I can tell everybody, please turn in your ballots. I know you guys got them at home. So we need you to come out and vote, turn out your ballots, and this is our time. I promise, as your Congresswoman, to fight and be present.
Thank you. I voted today.
You did?
I voted today, yes. There was hardly anyone there. I asked people to please go out and vote.
Yeah.
What precinct?
I'm in the, it was early voting here. Yeah. So I was at the North Broward Hospital precinct.
Okay.
In Deerfield Beach, right off of Sample Road.
Yes. We were in Miramar all day today in Tamarack, and they had a good stream. Last time I checked, there was over 100,000 ballots of people who had them at home. So I keep stressing, please drop it off at early voting. I don't know what the president's trying to do with the mail, but please, you could take your ballot, go drop it off, vote as soon as possible. The world is watching, to be honest with you. I had an interview last week with CNN Brazil, and CNN Brazil wanted to know, and they were featuring Black women in this country who are getting up and leading to this magnitude. And they said that if we are able to do it, then they know that it's going to influence the Black people in Brazil to finally have political power. So please know, everybody's watching this race that's coming up on Tuesday. Last Tuesday, 7 incumbents were gone. And this is our opportunity. We have a big race. We have 4 newcomers in the races challenging the Democrats who've been there for forever. And I'm confident we'll make the right decision.
Well, I feel this is the time is right now for, this new blood to come into Congress, and, you just keep trying, don't give up. Whatever happens, I wish you much success, but keep trying. I think your time is here now.
Thank you. I feel it. I feel that it's our time, and we have an opportunity to do what needs to be done, and we're going to do it.
Okay, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Just Shelia Cherfilus McCormick. She is a candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives in the 20th Congressional District, which covers Broward and Palm Beach County. She's trying to unseat the incumbent, Alcee Hastings. She wants to be the next congressman in the 20th District. Ms. McCormick, let me try and say this, boon chance.
Thank you so much.
I believe that means good luck to you in Creole.
Yes, bon chance.
Well, good luck to you, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come by and talk to the Adams Brothers podcast. We wish you the very best of luck. And when you win, don't forget to come back by the Adams Brothers podcast and talk to us.
I definitely will come. And if anybody wants to reach me, they can reach me at my website, sheilaforcongress.com. And that's SHEILA. Or you can call me at 954-668-5358. That is my personal number. Feel free to call because I get calls all day. And it's just a great opportunity to talk to people in this.
Well, thank you very much for your time, Ms. McCormick, and good luck to you. And we hope to see you back on this show here in the future. And have a great evening. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. You too.
Thank you.
All right, bye.